Sir.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Okay, so we all are live on the channel of 10 News. So we all are live on the channel on 10 News and welcome you all to another episode on 10 News. So today we have an amazing guest on this panel and we all are excited and looking forward to it. So today our discussions in on the global threat of Corona and the new variant. So at first, I want to introduce you all. There's what is 10 News? 10news.in is an amazing platform, and it's a national news portal. So which is very popular among NCR and also to the NRIs of our country. So we portray different news from different medias or different situations which are glowing around the world. We do show related to all the burning issues, political agendas, sports, or anything happening then that can create a concern. Our motto is to show the real cause other than any creating any hype. So I would like to request you all to be a part of these sessions, and I'm extremely delighted. So at first, I want to introduce all to our guests. So we have Dr. AKHILESH Sharma, sir, is the advisor of Ayurveda, Government of Delhi, also a visitor faculty at California College of Ayurveda and Hindi University of America. Then I want to introduce you all to Shri MADAN, sir. He's a genome biologist, formerly at the Medical Research Council and University of Cambridge. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Then we have YOJNA ma'am. She's the Chief Executive Officer of HealthPrax, a healthcare technology company, a scientist, and also a writer. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
And last but not the least, we have Shri VVSN Rao, sir, former Director of Talent Scouting and Monitoring, former Director of Sports Authority of India, Eastern Region, Evolution Officer of Jammu and Kashmir. I'm extremely delighted and pleasure that we have such an amazing guest today on the panel. Okay, so I want to start this session with you, Madan sir, that what you gonna say about the new global threat about the corona? There's a new variant that gonna come. So what are your views on that note? Thank you, ANIRBAN. The whole world has heard this news about the new strain that's there, and the RNA viruses are known to mutate. And there was a publication early in March about the kind of mutations and the spectrum, what we call the spectrum of mutations that are found in this 30,000 nucleotide long RNA. So number one, there's nothing new about mutations, particularly in RNA viruses. Number two, that this is how the virus evolves. It changes with every round of replication. There's an error somewhere, and some mutants are selected and they increase their prevalence in populations. And that's what we are seeing. So first thing, there's nothing new about seeing mutations. Now, the big question is, are there any special characters that make this new mutant or the series of mutants any different from what the original virus that started? And this is the unknown. So for the moment, there are no surprises. But then for people who are not familiar with what these mutations are and what these mutants do, it's big news. And unfortunately or unfortunately, we have all the technology today so that you can understand these mutants in minutes. About 2 or 3 decades ago, when the first RNA virus was sequenced, it took a whole 4 or 5 years to sequence a small RNA virus.
Absolutely.
And now it can be done in minutes. And this is the speed that we are seeing. So for me, it is both excitement and also the difficulty for policymakers and for the common man to understand what this is. So it's an educational experience for everybody, for me. Yes, viruses can mutate, they can become dangerous, and that we have to wait and see. Second point I want to make before I pass it back to you, that coronaviruses are not new in terms of human infections. Even before this virus came, there were at least 4 different well-settled coronaviruses in the human system. And so this will add to that collection. So there are at least, every human being has these viruses in their nasopharyngeal cavity. So and this is also a difficulty when it comes to testing, because there are older strains that came from a long time ago. There was an infection in 1890 that came from a crossover between a human virus and a bovine coronavirus. And this caused a huge epidemic, 1890 there was. And what we have today is something similar. My worry is about the new strains that are out there. That are in Denmark, there was a new strain that was identified in animals used for making fur coats, minks. And that is a problem because that is there in the environment. How it recombines with this human strain that's going on now, and what are the other effects, I don't know. I think we should be thinking about those things also. Thank you, ANIRBAN.
Exactly. So you have really helped us about knowing this thing. So I want to ask you, Yojna ma'am, that you are also looking into the different sort of technologies which going to help our healthcare systems. So how do you personally feel that this after coming the vaccines, how this going to help? And because after distribution also plays a role, and we are still going through news is like, those who have been the vaccinations done, people are also not surviving. So what do you want to say on that note?
Well, digital health technologies are changing the world. This is a dynamic health technology world we are living in. And forget about the new technologies. In general, the rudimentary, the conventional communication channel, the technologies that are enabling quick transmission of information. That is something you can understand has enabled the whole world to come up with the vaccine in one. That is something phenomenal. That is something which has never happened before in the human history. Further to that, definitely technology, as you can see, in terms of contact tracing, in terms of identifying and blocking the spread of the infection. Definitely, technology has been playing a very, very important and critical role. Otherwise, it would have been. I don't think it would have been possible to control the situation to this extent. I mean, this is something very much retrospective. People can argue saying that, okay, with flu, 10,000 people in Germany died last year. And this year, it's like, half of that, and still we are panicking, something like that. But it's a retrospective thing to see that, okay, what could have happened, and what with the help of technology and good communication, we have controlled to some extent. Now, I would add to Sir's point, what he just mentioned in terms of the strains, the new strains, mutants which are there. Yes, mutation, the viral mutation is not a new thing. And the virus that from Wuhan came first at the start of the year. Now the strains that are circulating around the world, there are so many new strains, and that is something which the virus does as it moves through the population. That is a very natural thing. But the worrisome thing at the moment, adding to his point, for example, the UK variant. So the worrying part is that it has like 7 or 8 mutations, which is targeting the spiky protein of the virus, which is a target for some of the new vaccines. But this is something which needs to be properly investigated, because the vaccine doesn't only target one particular part of the virus, but it does so many other immunological reactions within the body, that overall hits and help to get rid of the virus. But this is something which is definitely need to be investigated, and the companies are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing such amazing knowledge, and I think this is gonna enlighten a lot of people. So I want to shift to Rao sir. That you come from a sports background, you come from a sports, and you have a lot of knowledge on the field. So I particularly want to ask you something that. When this COVID vaccines came to this throughout the globe, a lot of people said that a person with amazing immunity wouldn't have a problem. A person, and if we talk about sports personalities, we are always said that they have an amazing immunity system, rather a huge level of fitness. But personally, as I love soccer, I have seen a lot of players died due to COVID. So what you gonna say? Like, is this only having immunity helps you out, or this is something like we were a misconception going on?
Thank you very much. In the presence of all the experts, I can speak like a person, a common man sitting at the receiving end of corona. I will say, if you permit me, sports persons have got a better immunity. They have got a better fitness, better cardiovascular strength, and unless they come in contact with the already infected person, they are very, very safe. Another thing, if you permit me to add, why India has got some low fatality rate and the high rate of recovery. More than 90% are people recovering from this coronavirus. It is amazing, and now people have accepted in the Western countries also the Indian way of lifestyle as well as the food habits. They are helping in recovering faster. Dr. Akhilesh ji has developed Ayurveda medicines containing all the household items. He has helped me to recover one of my colleague in Sports Authority of India in 5 days. And that is all because of Ayurveda. Dr. Akhilesh ji has developed a kada comprising our kitchen items, and that has infected with corona, and his kada has helped. So I have written on the Facebook also, our Sanatan Dharam's lifestyle, our worshipping neem tree, our using a turmeric, we are using a ginger and a cinnamon.
I
Game
think
versus
there's
individual
some
game.
technical glitch on the panel of Rao sir. Rao sir, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please continue, sir.
See, sports persons who come out without maintaining the precautions, and mostly in the team games,
Yeah.
those who are in contact games, they are getting in contact and getting into this thing. Individual disciplines, now we have developed the digital training also, the fitness also. In my mobile, there is a calisthenic and isometric and isotonic exercises, which a sportsman can do without coming in touch with anybody. And they are maintaining their fitness. Now we have conducted a national championship on digitally on Zoom. Every state teams are presenting in their courtyard or in their field, individual like Kalaripayattu. You might have heard about the Kalaripayattu, which is the mother of all martial arts. We recently on 30th October and 1st November, we conducted national championship, and the ministry was amazed, sports ministry. All the states, they maintain this thing, and because of their fitness level, they are all having a hale and hearty with touch wood.
Wow.
As I told you beforehand, we as a sports person, sports administrators, we are at the receiving end of corona, and we are maintaining a precaution. So there are two types of precaution. Don't come in touch with the infested area. Don't go into the crowded places. Don't go in this thing. And second is our own fitness, cardiovascular strength, and our own food habits. So that is how we are maintaining it. And I think India is showing the way. 140 crores population country has got only 1 lakh death, and some 14 lakhs or something contamination is there. So, and the recovery rate is, today only I read, I think it has reached 97% recovery rate. So in spite of that, because of the UK variant, Maharashtra government and others have declared a night curfew. There are a lot of precautions are being taken. Even Delhi is Dr. Akhilesh will be better speak about the Delhi's very, very pathetic condition. Thank you. I think Dr. Akhilesh will further extend my comment on Indian way of lifestyle, which is helping us. Thank you, Dr. Akhilesh ji. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much, Professor Rao. It's a matter of great privilege for me to be part of this August gathering and giving me this opportunity to be, part of this group and to speak about Ayurvedic perspective.
Yeah.
You see, the way we say in Ayurveda, we say Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, which means whatever is there in the macrocosmos is present within all of us also in microcosmos as well. And there's a continuous interaction between man and nature. So man is a nothing but miniature of nature, right?
Yeah.
And in other words, what I'm trying to say, in the modern scientific perspective, when we say things present in the periodic table, all those elements are also present in our human body.
Exactly.
That's why if you look into the bigger picture of entire Ayurvedic perspective with more than 40,000 formulations, and also we are talking about herbs, minerals, metals, I mean, amazing combination of mixtures which we make. And many people are skeptic about it also, talking about heavy metals and all those. But those things have been documented way back thousands of years ago and put together and incorporated into practice. So the greatness of this entire knowledge of Ayurveda is it has been a continuous interaction and continuous observation about the interactions between micro and macrocosmos, which has been studied by the masters of the time.
Yeah.
So quoting Mr. Rao's statement, to add further, I though won't name some of those sports stars, but I had a privilege to work with some of the celebrity stars of the world. Three of them, I would say, I could quote their countries like country Colombia, Sweden, India, and United States. I knew four of the gold medalists of Olympics who have been benefited greatly with Ayurveda, and
Yeah.
I mean, ethically, it will be wrong if I pronounce their names. I mean, those who want to know individually, I'll be happy to tell, but not sharing it in public. So I myself was amazed to see their effects and how that became a parameter of their success. Ayurveda was their backbone, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
And in last 6 7 months, almost it has been like 10 months of COVID crisis in the whole world. I have done many webinars pertaining to COVID-19 situation. For me, in the beginning, it was more like a learning experience. When I started having interactive sessions worldwide, I have traveled through. So, see, one common factor which I found analyzing all those people and all those case studies, like I had a lot of patients who are like my friends, doctors from New York, who are working in COVID wards, ward boys and nurses, whom I knew because I've been personally visiting them for the last 24 years, right? So, in those other countries and Scandinavia, some other places, what common factor I found very strong, as Mr. Rao rightly pointed out, anybody and everybody who had been following Indian way of usage of the spices and the food habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that has, and especially being vegetarian. I will touch different aspects one by one. If you talk about usage of the Indian spices, you might call them superfoods or you might call them just spices for flavors and tastes and interests, but no, they were much more than that. Like, for instance, if you're talking about haldi, which is
Yeah.
proven to be immunomodulator, anti-cancer, it is a good antioxidant, it is a good tissue level, it makes the alveoli more flexible and elasticized. Yeah, it is bringing muscular and bony flexibility and elasticity in the body,
Yeah.
right?
True.
It is antiviral, it is antifungal, it is antibacterial, it is bactericidal, it is bacteriostatic, it is antihistamine, So all those symptoms coming because of the coronavirus, which we might categorize under Vata Shleshmak Jwar, are nothing but the similar parameters. We are, controlling them with symptomatic management, keeping the tridoshik theory in our mind, not even knowing about the vaccination part, still have been able to cure thousands of people all over. Live
Exactly.
examples are there from All India Institute of Ayurvedic Sciences, Chaudhary Brahm Prakash Hospital. Then it was taken further to Porbandar and also in Gujarat, where the health secretaries have made strong claims on that. So, unfortunately, that part, because there is no glamour attached to it, there is no pharmaceutical industry attached to it, but things coming from those simplest kitchen remedies have been bring revolutionary in this whole aspect. So usage of some of the individual things, for instance, I would like to bring in limelight. For instance, haldi, I told you. Then if we talk about, which is amla, another, and this is for vitamin C, it has very good, then it has got antimicrobial peptides in it. Giloe also is one of that, which has been proven to be having anti-microbial peptides, which has been able to protect and prevent the further, growth of this virus. And another aspect, I mean, I can talk endlessly about all those spices. Like we are using mulati, which is all of like the gladra, ashwagandha, which has already been proven. And there was another scientist working in Japan who has worked immensely on ashwagandha for almost 20 years, and he has publicly admitted that how it was able to prove it that RNA virus outer shell was broken with the help of ashwagandha. Then Dalchini is there. Giloy, of course, we have talked about. Giloy, which is increasing our T helper cell count also, and has been used for anti-HIV activity, also for T helper cell count improvement. So all those time-tested remedies of Ayurveda have not been unfortunately documented, but have been practiced by almost 5 million people in this country. It's a part of the regular practice. Imagine there are 1.25 billion people in this country. So, there is a silent undercurrent of Ayurveda, which has got strong positive points in support of it. Then using pipali, using black pepper, which has been, breaking up the phlegm, also having broad spectrum bactericidal, bacteriostatic effect as well. Anti-Alzheimer's activities are kind of positive side effects of those things. Black pepper is also increasing our short-term memory, long-term memory, and retaining capacity. So, talking about the mental health, we say that even the mind and the mental health has a close connection. If your mental immunity is strong, you don't give up in life. So, unorganized way of saying it, that maybe Kalimits has been a very strong mental strength and culture also, which has been working behind. So the greatness of this entire science is its simplicity, which has really given a live example of number of deaths and a number of cure rates. Then I was
Can I
saying
ask
about being vegetarian. I'll just speak about vegetarian, then I'll take the question. So, being a vegetarian has been a very interesting concept. When I started documenting and understanding, analyzing people from, for instance, Ananda Marga group, following people from Hare Krishna group, I connected with various groups from Bhaktivedanta Institute, from Gaudiya Mutt, all those people who have been vegetarian for almost 10, 15 years, even the white society, who recently came to know about ISKCON movement and Satya Sai Baba movement followers, all those who are strongly vegetarians and using haldi and using desi ghee and using jeera, tulsi in their daily practice, in their food, eating khichdi regularly, they all have been saved. I talked to the head of the temple, to the priests, and Bhaktivedanta Institute in various parts, Scandinavia, Sweden, Finland, Norway, in US, wherever I went. I've been to almost 28 countries. So one common thread, all those people who have been strongly vegetarian have been saved. Those who have been consuming all the spices which have been integral part of the herbal decoction also have been saved. So that was very strong point of interest, which we really want to. Audio quality is fading. Okay, should I make a pause?
Hello.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can continue, sir.
Okay. Yes. Let me take the question first. Yojna ji, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes, Dr. Akhilesh. I'm a big fan of Ayurveda and alternative medicine. But as a scientist, I keep challenging myself, my own concepts and other concepts. So I have a few questions for you with regard to this. It's kind of I'm playing devil's advocate here, so don't take me wrong. But really, I want to understand, out of curiosity, that if we talk about the Corona crisis, for example, in the Indian perspective, like the claims that have been made that because of different types of medicine or different protocol being followed to treat the patients, be it allopathic protocol, which has been followed in India, or using Ayurvedic medicine or other alternative medicines, we are seeing a great recovery rate. Yes, to some extent it might be true. But my question is that what would you say about the underreporting of cases, underreporting of the data in terms of active cases and the death rate, which we should agree that there has been an underreporting because of various reasons. It may not be intentional, but in such a large country, there's high likelihood. And if you read the reports, it says that it's more than 10 to 10 times less, 10 times of underreporting of actual figures. So this is my one question. How would you comment on that? And secondly, in terms of recovery rate, yes, definitely. I mean, even if we have common cold or flu, taking ginger tea or taking some, such type of things, Ayurvedic medicines, it's helpful. But in general, as we have seen across the world, for the asymptomatic cases or the people with mild symptoms, they recovered. The recovery rate was good across the world, right? And as your symptoms develop, you treat it that way. And if there is phlegm, you take care of that. If there is fever, you take ibuprofen, paracetamol, whatever. But when it crosses a certain stage in corona infection, and the people I know who have been infected, they swear to it that it is very different from the experience is different from a common flu experience. You know, so when it crosses a stage, do you think the Ayurvedic medicines do play a role in, in supporting the person, or it is only useful when it is like asymptomatic or mild symptoms?
Okay. Let me put it this way. You know, when we came, disturbance is there.
I think we should go mute program. That will help.
Is there any way we can control that? No.
Uh, no,
I
I
think now.
think it's yeah. Now it's okay. Now it's okay. You can
I see.
continue.
Okay. So you see, what the moment we came to know about this aspect, and we started talking about the preventive healthcare model of Ayurveda, which has been very strong, following the diet part, following dinacharya and ritucharya, following Ayurveda's ahar, vihar, vichar, and sanskar pattern. These
Yeah.
four pillars, very important. So the what has helped me a lot, individually speaking, for many thousands of people worldwide. I did webinars, about 70 webinars we did during all this 7 8 months period of time. So what we try to do, wherever we were able to tell people, okay, this virus goes and affects your lung fiber, then what you want to do, you want to take regular steam inhalation, and that too with dhumra nasya or adding some ajwain to it, and that has phenomenally worked as preventive healthcare thing. Now, again, then we were adding mint, pudina, which is also a bronchodilator and a broad
Yeah.
spectrum bactericidal and bactericidal too. Apart from that, we were telling them to do gargles 2 or 3 times a day in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Having a combination of, say, ghee, haldi, and warm water, making like a decoction and using it for gargles. Also using sesame oil and curcuma combination made a recipe, use them like nasal drops. So you see, what did it do? It made the mucosal lining healthy and stronger, and a protective coverage was given so that the virus either doesn't enter through this entry point of nasopharynx, nor even if it has entered, God knows how and why, or if it has done or not. I'm not making any claim on that. But I would say, yes, if there would have been an effect or a documented study on that, that how the sesame oil curcuma recipe is working as a virucidal activity in the nasopharynx as well, I'm sure we would have got positive results on that.
So we
Because
don't have any clinical trials on this, right?
no, the thing is, if I am an individual Ayurvedic physician, so imagine the poor Ayurveda Acharya in this country doesn't have any research lab, and none of the allopathic institutions are allowing him to me to get in and do
Yeah, so
it. There
based
has
on
been
the
lack
theoretical,
of collaborative research on that.
yeah, yeah. So this is based on the theoretical
Uh,
concept that yes, because these ingredients have these properties, so most likely it will work on this, and this will work on this, and that's the reason it will have an activity on the virus. It will have virucidal activity, right? It
Right.
is more of preventive. That's what I can understand. It's more of preventive and strengthening yourself. But I'm not sure
Right.
that whether it really
What I'm
impacts
saying
the
is,
kind of immunity it is needed for protection against the coronavirus in specific.
right. I will tell you some of the other examples also. Like another classmate of mine who himself is an Ayurvedic doctor, he got exposed to it. And initial stage of fibrosis was happening to it. He got the lung X-ray done, and immediately he started doing gargles the way I told him, and he was doing all the steam inhalation also. And we have something called dhumra nasya, which we do indicate as an indication for inhalation of certain type of fumes. Like it is a similar concept which we used during plague in the year 90, when it was called as dhupan samagri, properly approved and by an initiative taken by the Ministry of Health, Government of India, and it was very successful strategy, which was able to control strategy. So my point is, still we are working as an individual, but there is no combined effort or there's no encouragement coming, and there is a lack of coordination between the two sectors, where we say that okay, neither I understand what you're doing nor I want to. Or sometimes we are speaking as a you are speaking of the language of Vata Pitta Kapha, and I say Vata Pitta Kapha, and Yojna ji says no. You cannot say the word bactericidal or bacteriostatic.
So that
So
will happen. That will happen because when scientists from two different areas will talk, there should be some
right,
common platform. And the
yeah,
common platform comes from the evidence. And evidence
right.
is created by clinical trials. And if we don't have that, there will be always debate and, not an agreement can
Well,
be. Yeah,
well,
I
then the
certainly
point
agree
of
with Madan
then
sir.
the
So thank you
point
very
of
much.
collaboration is let's do the clinical trials, right? Again, it starts from there. So because this entire science was so neglected, unfortunately, it was science of India, which was the oldest documented healthcare system of the world. And
Could
but it was kind of sidelined because of the various things. You know all about. I don't need to speak anything negative about anything, but the need of the hour is integration, and integration of understanding each other's language also
Yeah.
in their I mean
yeah, I
when we
think
it is not a modern scientific perspective. What I am saying is Ayurveda is saying this is my scientific perception of Vata Pitta Kapha. So let's say
yeah.
I respect your science and you respect mine.
Actually, sir, so we will be holding on for a second. I think Rao sir wants to speak something. Yeah,
Yeah,
please continue.
please, sir.
Please.
I would like to add few words to what Dr. Akhilesh Sharma is saying. Dr.
Yeah.
Madan Thangavelu has informed us that the protocol for Ayurveda and Siddha training protocol has been prepared by Government of Italy, not by Government of India. And it is so unfortunate that recently Supreme Court has given a direction to Ayush Mantralaya not to allow Ayurveda and homeopathy doctors to put any medicine as a curative medicine. They can only give as a immunity booster, not as a curative medicine. That is so unfortunate. And Dr. Akhilesh has cured my colleague, 5 members family, and only one male member, earning member. I was so worried. All three, four ladies and one single earning member, and all bedridden. And Dr. Akhilesh, the God sent messenger, he asked me, आपके जान पहचान में कोई है क्या जो किसी में मेरे पास एक काढ़ा है. I immediately said, please send it to this address in Delhi. And within 5 days, all 5 members got cured.
Yeah.
And in spite of that, Supreme Court says not to use Ayurveda medicine as a curative medicine. You can only use it as a immunity booster. See, such an unfortunate thing.
Okay.
I add to that, sir. Another point is, although I don't know if I should say it on public platform, but you know what to say, talk about if somebody puts a small notice in the COVID ward in New York City saying that those who want to get cured naturally want to contact this number, and they put my number. What's my fault there? You see?
Definitely,
I was not propagating it. I didn't know who are these people calling me. And I started working. I got so inspired, sir, so motivated. I made 1 million packets of Ayush Karma and distributed to Corona warriors in India.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
The government of Delhi has appointed him as an advisor to tackle corona in a most infested state in the country. And he is now advisor to the government of Delhi and curing people in the Juggi Jhopdis and the Bastis. And still Ayush Mantralaya, Supreme Court, how can Supreme Court give a direction not to use Ayurveda medicine as a curative medicine?
this is the irony, sir. Are the technocrats of the subject? How
See,
can they
so
say
unfortunate.
not to use?
I sent that press release to Dr. Madan Thangavelu. I think Dr. Madan Thangavelu remembers that. I sent you that homeopathy and Ayurveda cannot claim that they are curing corona. They can only give it as a immunity booster. Supreme Court is
very politely saying that I don't want to make any claims. I'm saying let us collaborate. I'm supporting.
I think collaboration, yes. Rather than claiming supremacy, it's more about collaboration at the moment.
Exactly.
There is some things which are preventive, some things which are curative. So we need to see that how we can, make the best use of the available resources and knowledge for the common benefit of general public.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing this thing, which I personally feel is like, it's all about all the part of the medication should be hand in hand, and let's go and get something beautiful for to evacuate, COVID vaccines. So I want to ask one question to Madan
One
sir
thing I
that
would say so, if we are, for us, we as an Indians, you see, all of us, we are sitting here as Indians. What I'm saying is the history of medicine starts from our country, and this is our cultural heritage. This is India's cultural heritage. This is an opportunity for us to give research to the world with a collaborative research, combining those, understanding the language, English as a language and Sanskrit as a language together to teach the world.
So, sir, I will come to your point again, Akhilesh sir. So, I want to rather ask to Madan sir that nowadays, just I was reading a journal a few days back that they were saying the new sort of variant which is coming in COVID vaccines, there is an extreme changes in the sequences. So if somebody is going for a test, they might show a negative while doing a COVID test, but they might actually carrying the COVID vaccine, and he can be very, very it's a barrier to all the people, and he can spread the disease. So what's your count on that? No?
Thank you. I want to also add a little bit on the earlier comments raised by AKHILESH and YOJNA and Rausa. But I'll come to that. But first, let me address your question. Number one, if I'm going to take a little bit into the fine details here in terms of this RNA virus, and it's easy to understand. This RNA virus is 30,000 nucleotides long, so that's the genome size. And if we look within this, there are many little genes that code for different proteins, and one important gene is the gene that codes for something called the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. It's the RNA molecule that makes new RNA molecules for the virus to increase in numbers. Now, one of the mutations that was observed in March by the International Viral Genome community was a mutation in the gene that copies the RNA. So when you get a mutation in this gene, it increases the error frequency of the replicate. DNA.
Okay. Okay.
So it starts to make more and more mutations. But we have technology. So this is the natural sequence. We have enough technology to rapidly design and improve the tests. So we must be on our guard if we want to be monitoring this virus. In terms of what Yojna said about informatics and how to monitor this virus in different parts of the world or the community or country or wherever you want to monitor this, there are new technologies, information technologies that actually are mobile phone connected. So in the UK, we have an application called Zoe app. And Zoe app is one of the most powerful apps. It's available on the web. You can look at it. Zoe app is one of the most powerful apps available for monitoring spread of the virus. So if you put these two things together, it's very easy to visualize a situation where you can monitor real time. Yes, there is a technological challenge, but let's leave that aside for the moment. There is a way to monitor the spread of mutants going around. So we can cost-effective way to monitor mutants going around. Now, all this is pointing to a post-mortem analysis of the problem. That means things are happening, you're always behind the virus. This is a difficulty. You are only being reactive, you are not proactive. So we need to get to a point where you are proactive. And where is this proactivity and what is that strategy? How can you be ahead of the virus? And for me, when I look at the fine details of how the virus goes into your body, how the body is either prepared or unprepared to battle this virus, I see something there. That is an area that we must look into. And this brings me to the points that Sharmaji and Yojna and Rao Saab are asking and pointing to. Number one, for this virus to establish itself in the human body, there are many, many fine details that need to be compromised for this virus to establish. And those barriers can be strengthened through two approaches. They can be strengthened through pharmacological approaches or non-pharmacological approaches.
Yeah.
And this is very important to know because this is not the last time we will be hit by a virus.
Okay.
Every season, when in Ayurveda there is a term, when the seasons change, in Ayurveda they call it Ritu. When the Ritu changes, your immune system is compromised. So we have evidence today, very strong evidence about what are the genes that are downregulated when the seasons change. Now, this is from modern biology. Now, this has to be strengthened. If you talk to Sharmaji, he would say that in Ayurveda, there is a period called Ritu Sandhi, when one season meets the next season. In the Indian system, we have 6 ritus. 6 ritus are based on our calendar system where the seasons change. So when one ritu meets the next ritu, which is every 2 months approximately, or 2 lunar cycles, there is a period where you are meant to do some practices. And there are some ritus where you have to be extra careful. Now, at first, for us who are not familiar with Ayurvedic systems, when we look at this, we say, what nonsense is this? But on closer examination, when we apply all the fine details, the best molecular biology tools we have today, Ritu Sandhi starts to make perfect sense, and it helps us guide future research. So I give you one example. In the state of India, in Kerala, in the south of India, there is a special procedure called Karkadaga Chikitsa. Now, Karkadaga Masam is a time just between the hot summer transiting to the monsoon. And in that part of the country, people have known that your increased susceptibility to diseases. If you talk to Sharmaji, he will say, this is when the doshas are destabilized.
Right.
And they have a special procedure called Karkadaga Chikitsa. Karkataka Chikitsa is a very special treatment where you take rice and you put about 30 to 40 herbs in it and you make a little porridge out of this thing and you take this stuff and it works. So how does, for us from the modern biology side, we say this is a practice that is traditional, that people do it, they don't even think about it. When Karkata Masam comes, you start taking this stuff. And there are many other such treatments. Vamanas, they have some Vamanas, Virechanas that are done in different times of the season. So Sharmaji will tell you more about this. The question for us is, where does it work? How does it work? So this is the comment that, this is a question that Yojna is asking. Now, let me come into this. All of these systems are boosting your ability to accommodate what the environment is pushing on you. You know, the environment is changing. You get a sore throat because the environment is changing, and there's a reason why it happens. And that reason for us biologists is exciting. When we look at, for instance, I'll give you one small example. When we look at our immune system is deeply connected to our gut. And in Ayurveda, this is called the Mahashrota. Sharmaji will tell us a little more about this. When we look at our gut, we see the gut is a home for a lot of bacteria. There are more bacterial cells in us than ourselves. When the seasons change, there is a dialogue between the nervous system and our body. And that dialogue goes all the way to every part of the body. It also goes to the gut. When it goes to the gut, it destabilizes this fantastic balance that's been established over 2 ritus. Over 2 ritus, and balance is established. That is disrupted somehow because there's a lot of signaling going on between the autonomic nervous system and the gut bacteria. That's disturbed, and that needs to be reestablished. And what better way to reestablish than through a simple formulation? You know, take certain herbs. The herbs provide prebiotics and probiotics that helps reestablish the bacterial content in the stomach. So this is the way mechanisms are operating. This is practice-based evidence. So this is practice that's been going on for thousands of years, and it works in the community. Now, what Yojna is wanting is evidence-based practice. Now, practice-based evidence meets evidence-based practice because that is the way we improve techniques, and that's how we improve technologies and knowledge. And is it happening? Yes, it is happening in the Ayurvedic system. And I want to give you 3 examples that are going on in the Ayurvedic system, the Siddha system, which is connected, and also in the Unani system. 3 of the many systems in the Ayush systems. And also from the yoga fraternity, there is some good work coming through now. Now, let me start with the Ayurvedic area. There is a big study that's going on in New Delhi. About 80,000 policemen, people of the police force, have been given a single herb called guduchi or Tinospora cordifolia. This is the name of this herb. And this is known as a Divya Aushadhi in Sanskrit. Sharmaji will tell us more. And the whole thinking is that a principle within guduchi will provide resistance, will improve the immunity. And this is one of the world's largest studies that is going on right now in Delhi on use of a single herb to see how it works. The data might be gathered. Sharmaji will tell us more. Number 2, there is a lovely study that's been done by a clinical trials company in Meerut, not far from Delhi. And they have been working on a formulation that contains Ayurvedic herb called Kalameg. Kalameg is one of the most bitter herbs in the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia. And Kalameg is also part of a formulation called Kabasura Kudinir. This is in Siddha medicine. Kabasura Kudinir is an old formulation that's been used in these kind of problems, which also contains Kalameg as active ingredient. Now, when you look at this commonality of 3 things, and you say, what is this bitter principle? Let's say in Ayurveda, there is a concept called Rasa Panchaka. There is a very deep principle of Rasa Panchaka. And when we look within this, we find at least one common principle, that is a bitter principle. Now, if you want to take the bitter principle and bring it into the world of modern biology, you suddenly see the bitter principle is affecting biological activity by binding to something called the bitter receptors. Bitter receptors are found in every part of our body. And let me give you two examples where this works and where we might be able to investigate the fine biology and where we might be able to understand the clinical trial data that is coming out for all these three examples. So bitter principles, the bitter receptors, I start with the lung and the start of the response from the nose all the way going into the lung. As we go deeper into the lung, you will find some ciliated cells higher into the lung. And these cells have got a flagella on surface and they're beating their flagella. The moment you feed your system bitter substances, the flagella start moving faster. And the movement of the flagella and the lung is from the inside, pushing things outward. And what it pushes out is the mucus that's forming deep down in the lung. The deepest part of the lung are where the lung stem cells live. So by having a beating response that pushes things out of the lung, it protects the stem cells, which is the place closest to the alveolus that connects with the capillary that transfers oxygen and takes out. So here is an example of how the bitter principle works. Now, if you look at the immune system, the bitter principle is in operation again in many parts of the immune system. So there is a lot of work. There is a clinical trial that's, if you can see the data, Yojna, you can see this data in the Clinical Trials Registry of India. It's a trial that's been completed that is done by organized by a company called Pankaja Kasturi. I do have to mention the name because it is a controversial bit of evidence, but very valuable evidence on using formulation that contains ginger plus some rasa aushadhis within that are providing very exciting results. So this is the way I see this problem. Number one, so let me just summarize what I said. Number one, the virus, you will never win with the virus because the virus is cleverer than you. It is working with principles that are so close to the fundamental organization of life. And so we have to go to one level below that to understand this virus. And the best structure or the best body of knowledge that's available to take us below the principles of life is the Ayurvedic concept of Panjabhutas and all these things. So you need to be familiar with that area. For those who understand that area, we can make this connection between the best of modern biology and something much lower, even before, the inanimate space. So that logic is from Ayurveda. Number two, that we have to improve our something that gives us strength to withstand not only this coronavirus and the new strains of this virus, but many other viruses that are waiting to come, contact and non-contact viruses. There are a long list of these that are waiting to land. And this is a perfect example. It was a wake-up call for all of us to say we have to do something more about this. And the third thing, yes, I agree that there is a need for clinical trials. There are clinical trials going on. The one from Meerut, the results I received yesterday, there's a press release today. It will be published today. Sharmaji may even get the details. That is number three. And that should interface very firmly with policy making. And I feel there are gaps here and there are biases. And those are unintentional. I don't think these are intentional gaps and biases. We need to get more people who have the ability to communicate these things, to bring those principles together, to show what are the mechanisms that are in operation and to fill the gaps. And that will come out of a dialogue of this kind, a larger dialogue of this kind, where we bring in more people and discuss. So these are the essential needs. And I don't think the Supreme Court, if I haven't followed the news, but what Rao Saab is saying, I don't think they are being informed adequately. And the dialogue that must happen is not happening. Finally, before I finish off, I want to say that the World Health Organization, out of the 6 regions of the World Health Organization, WHO Africa, for the Africa region, is already doing phase 3 trials on African herbals. So Africa is driving this whole thing. And this must become common knowledge. And it must be brought into play immediately. All these things must be brought into play so that at least we are discussing these things and see how to interface with modern biology, with clinical trials, with people like YOJNA, who has a lot of experience with GlaxoSmithKline. And that dialogue must happen. And I don't think there are losers in this. There are losers if we don't start dialoguing. Then it will be very unfortunate. That will be the most unfortunate thing for a country like India, where we have had this knowledge for thousands of years. But the dialogue that should have happened is not happening. Number one, we are not understanding how to translate these two bodies of knowledge. And I feel the Ayurvedic knowledge has much finer granularity in understanding complex processes of life, where it brings the concept of the body, the mind, and something called the soul, the spirit. And that spirit, to me, is not this bhutic spirit, but everything other than your body and the mind is that spirit. And as when I talk about this, the effect of the ritus, that is what is happening in your body, how the immune system changes and how it modulates. So this is my assessment on what I've heard over the past from our contributors. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for sharing so much of knowledge. So we have 4 minutes in our hand. So I want to give my last question to Yojna ma'am, that you are also participating in a media platform of health department. So I would ask you, like, after the vaccines are in the market, so they're going to be huge role playing promoting the right stuff to the right person, because a lot of people also gonna, you know, marketing other stuffs and doing a business behind the vaccines. So how you want to look onto it?
Is it a question for me? Sorry.
Yeah, it's for you. It's for you.
Yeah, I think as far as the vaccine related supply chain logistics is concerned, this is going to be governed and driven by the governments, by the respective governments. Other businesses around it, other medicines or therapies, they are there in the market. They will continue, but vaccine is something which absolutely will be driven by the government across the world, and that is what is happening in Germany. For example, the vaccination is going to get started from 27th of December, and after the high-risk group, which I think in a couple of months they will cover, and then they will go to second tier of people who need it. You know, so that's my take on it. And yeah, today's discussion definitely was very insightful, but it needs a second round, because I have again a lot of questions with regard to not as challenging the Ayurvedic way of therapies and treatments, because I firmly believe that across the world, not only Ayurvedic or alternative Unani or other medicines in India, if we look at any other alternative therapies across the world, the way of living of the human being was different. And the lifestyle has changed so much, which has given, because of which now we are seeing so many different types of new diseases, old diseases coming up. Viruses are attacking us of different kinds because we have gone weak. As human beings, we have gone weak. If we look at the older generation, they were much more stronger than us in different parts of the world, in their own pattern. What was need of that local region? Like, for example, Germans, they are known to be very strong, and because of their own the local eating habits and what they had been, their own lifestyle they had been using. Chinese traditional medicine, they are advocating it so much, and they don't want to use the Western medicine. You look at the Japanese traditional medicine. So in different parts of the world, there are traditional medical systems which work very well. And as Dr. Ashish, Dr. Sharma ji and Madan sir clearly, very nicely outlined, right now is the time to collaborate, not to contest, but to collaborate. And on the way, I think if we generate the evidence, it will become easier to communicate and have a dialogue with the right authorities, so that it becomes easier to implement it across the masses. And I think in Ayurveda, particularly for myself, one problem I see is that it is very much practitioner dependent. So, like Rao sir said that, Sharma sir treated the family, So this is very much because still we are lacking that standardized way of characterizing and synthesizing active ingredients and having that those pharmacopoeias as we have for allopathic medicines in place, British pharmacopoeia, Indian pharmacopoeia, and very detailed description of all the ingredients. How do you synthesize? So uh, the source of the ingredient doesn't play much role, while it still play a big role if the turmeric is taken from say one part of the country or other part of the country, or how it has grown, how you are getting the, I'm not getting the right term, but how you are getting the active ingredient out of it. That plays a big critical role in its efficacy, not safety but efficacy, because mechanism of action and safety is already established, but efficacy varies a lot depending on the source. So if we can establish those standards, if we can establish those standard guidelines in place, I think it will become much more acceptable and easier to implement. That is my personal take on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for okay, Akhilesh sir just wants to say something. We will make it very short because the time is there. Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, then I'll be quickly summing up what I wanted to say. One thing, what Madam Yojna ji said, I've been working in industry into product development. So
Yeah.
the thing is, I had some little bit of information, something called active principle percentage we take out from the plant, which matters. Then quality of the soil, the time of the season, time of the day when and which herb has been collected, that matters. And now, overall, I would like to quickly say that, talking about the lifestyle and the Sandhi part of the Ritus, which has been narrated nicely, what we say in Ayurveda, I'll give you one example. About 9 years ago, I went to Amarnath Yatra, and to cut the long story short, I volunteered my services to the army personnel who were serving there.
Okay.
So I had the privilege to see about 4,000 of them, very confidential thing. I went out of the box and I said, I want to give you some tip to follow. Just one single tip which I gave. I said, all of you want to do the sesame oil massage on everyday basis, and it will be a give and take. It will be an exchange. So using sesame oil, which has got selenium, zinc, cobalt, copper, iron, sulfur as six of the main ingredients in it. That is the chemistry part, though, from modern scientific perspective. But I said, do this, and how it will affect you. It will increase more oxygen supply, more blood supply, better flexibility of elasticity of muscles and bones as well, the way it has been claimed in the books. So I put exactly the way they want, I mean, the way I wanted to. I just translated, gave them the information, and I said, but I need a fee in return. And the fee is, you want to give me the feedback that what happened. Now, to cut the long story short, you know what happened?
What's
Three
up?
months of continuous implementation of regular massages twice a week, give and take by those soldiers. You know what did it do? It dropped 40% of the indent of the antibiotics and antihistamines and the painkillers they were indenting in their pharmacy.
My goodness.
So
Yeah.
you imagine the bronchopneumonia, the respiratory diseases dropped down drastically. This is one example I'm giving you. This is not even tip of the iceberg I have talked about. This is the
Yeah.
effect
Yeah.
make a
True.
revolution in
True.
this society.
True.
I
True.
think we can collaborate. We can
Yeah.
collaborate to publish the
Yeah.
result.
Yeah, I think what I personally feel that this is something which everybody has to go hand in hand, starting from Ayurveda, starting from homeopathy or other parts. So, and if we continue the discussions, it's gonna be long. So,
Right.
I just request you all. We will be Yeah, Rao sir, I request you that we will be collaborating once more. That because
In
okay, please.
independent India, sir, we should have an integrative school of thought from the beginning. That was a mistake made in this country.
Okay. Yeah. So now, sir, your mic is mute, so we can't hear because I think the time is also going on. So I request that. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Last, Dr. Madan Thangavelu will give a comment on the social media. So many comment and videos against the vaccine. So much so that the president of Brazil has mentioned that I will not allow vaccine in my country. The women will grow beard. The president of Brazil has commented. So I would like Dr. Madan Thangaveli's comment on this vaccine and the fear being created in social media.
That is really fortunate.
Yes.
I'm hoping we still have time. Thank you, Raza. The principles that go into the whole vaccination theory are understood, that there is a way you deliver an antigen and it activates the immune system, and the immune system then produces antibodies. So the principle is common. What is worrying about the new approaches is the way you deliver the antigen to the system. And the antigen in this instance, the vaccines that are available today, there is one, the Moderna vaccine, where the antigen will be delivered not as a protein, which was the old form, either an inactivated virus or a bacteria, whatever is the old form. Instead, the vaccine will be delivered through RNA. So this is the first point. And to deliver this RNA, you have to take the RNA molecule and then you have to coat it in a liposome. You protect this RNA so that it's delivered to the system. And when we look at the amount of those molecules that are used there, the stoichiometries of the different components, then we see some strange things which we are not used to before. Yeah. And so that is the Moderna vaccine. The Sputnik vaccine, the Russian vaccine, gives us a different approach. They use something called the DNA virus, adenovirus, that is normally found in our body, and that's the approach. So this is a new way of delivering this antigen to the body. That means you're using nucleic acids, new nucleic acids, either RNA or DNA, to get the antigen, and then the antigen is produced in the body, and it does. What effects these new molecules have, that is a confusing thing, and we have to wait for the data. The correct procedure, or the traditional procedure, is that you do extensive clinical trials on these things, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years of trials to see what effect it has to the body. And what is the anxiety for everybody is that something new in many ways is being pushed through very quickly, and it's being delivered to people without having done all the required tests. And when something is done at this speed, it is only natural that people start to get suspicious. It's only fair that they must ask questions about the safety and efficacy and all these things. And then one story leads to the next. It's very easy for anybody sitting anywhere. And then it becomes a political football. And when it goes into that arena, then it goes out of control. The science gets diluted to zero, and then stories start snowballing, and that's what happens. But there are reasons why those things happen. And when we do this analysis, this is what we see. But at the same time, I'm saying vaccines will not cure the disease, but a vaccination program reduces the infection factor. The evidence is pointing that you can get vaccinated and still get infected by the virus, which says that there is an individual level something that we are not quite sure about. But if you do the logic is, if you do a large vaccination program, you touch many thousands of people, then a term that is used recently called the R factor, the infection factor, drops down below 1, and then slowly the infection subsides. So that's the whole logic of a vaccination program.
Exactly.
So I hope Rausab, I hope I've addressed your question here.
Yeah, thoroughly. Yeah, definitely. So rather, it was so amazing to know so much of things from you all, and I think a lot of people has been watching this session, and they also gather the knowledge at the end of the day. And I think this discussion gonna continue for another day, and there's a lot more to know from people like you. Thank you so much for joining. And I request to you all the people are watching, please continue watching 10 News, because we are also coming up with other events. Have a nice day. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Madan and Dr. Akhilesh ji, for joining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for bringing us
Thank
together.
you. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Anirban, are we staying online?
No, I think I should. I don't know, but I think we should go for the live studio.
Okay. Before you turn off, I just want to copy the our chat message.
Yeah, please.
Akhilesh ji has put a lot of information here, and I also wanted to chat with Yojna ji, but she has logged off. We were talking, Akhilesh ji, maybe we'll have a chat offline.
Yes.
There are many things we should chat about, especially what is happening in Delhi, and also the need to start curating whatever data that is there in All India Institute of Ayurveda, and how to engage with the National Institute of Immunology on some of these aspects. All that you are saying is very exciting, because you have seen this. You are approaching the problem from if you take sesame oil that you mentioned, and that is a wonderful study, and that is the correct way to gather that evidence.
I tell you, sir, I mean, out of thousands of patients' database, I have compile my own database.
Yes.
Where people are writing such admiring notes just on usage of sesame oil massage. This is not even one tip of the iceberg we are talking about.
How do we proceed? Do you have any suggestions? Because even a few, like what you did for your kada, your special kada that you have, if it is different from Ayush kada, if there are some new ingredients, then we should say, Ayush kada has this, and your kada has something else, and what is the logic behind that? So I think.
Sir, I want to be polite on that, to be honest. I don't want to confront, with the government of India, or saying that mine is better than yours, with total humility, and I will discuss it out.
Dr. Akhilesh, sesame oil, what is in Hindi?
Sorry, sir, sesame.
Sesame oil जो बताया है, उसको हिंदी में तिल का तेल, अच्छा, और जिंजली ऑयल जिसको बोलते हैं,
जिंजली ऑयल,
हाँ, मेरे घर पे है जिंजली ऑयल। उसको क्या खाली ऐसे ठंडे लगाना है कि गरम करके लगाना है?
सर, हल्का गरम करके लगाए ना, तो उससे जो है कि vasodilatory इफेक्ट होगा, and it permeates better through the skin. Skin being the largest organ of the body, sir. Nervous system lives here. आप जब इधर उसकी मालिश करते हो तो आपको इधर फायदा करता है, आपका दिमाग भी शांत है, बॉडी रिवाइटलाइजेस, मसल्स रिबिल्ड, इम्यूनिटी में बायोकेमिकल चेंजेस हैं, फिनोमिनल है सर। हमने इसको डॉक्यूमेंट भी नहीं किया अभी तक।
नहीं, हम लोग बचपन में लगाते थे, माँ तो मालिश करती थी, अभी तो हमने जवान होके छोड़ दिए हैं।
वो बचपन का आयुर्वेद छोड़ा है, जवानी में आके हम भूल गए।
हाँ, अभी आपने बताया तो मुझे लगा सेसम ऑयल और जिंजली ऑयल, तिल का तेल जिसको बोलते हैं।
हाँ जी,
तिल का तेल। हाँ,
स्पोर्ट्स मेडिसिन में रिवॉल्यूशन ले आएगा। मेरा आइडिया पता क्या है? स्पोर्ट्स मेडिसिन में जिस दिन हमने आयुर्वेदा का पंचकर्मा पार्ट इनकॉर्पोरेट करा दिया ना, इट विल ब्रिंग रिवॉल्यूशन।
ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आयुर्वेदा सरिता विहार में एक स्पोर्ट्स मेडिसिन का विंग खुलवा दिया हूँ।
अच्छा,
मल्होत्रा साहब से लिखा के श्रीपद नायक के सर पे तबला बजा के अल्टीमेटली ही हैज एग्रीड कि बैक साइड में जो नया बिल्डिंग बन रहा है उसका एक फ्लोर फॉर स्पोर्ट्स साइंस के लिए है। एंड
मैंने
आई
सर
हैव गिवन
गेम्स
मेरे आर्चर्स का परफॉर्मेंस बढ़ जाएगा इफ अगर दे गो फॉर पंचकर्मा एंड मेडिटेशन। वहां पर योगा का भी सेक्शन है, वहां पर सब आयुष का सारे वहाँ सेक्शन है, यूनानी है, सिद्धा है, सब कुछ है। अभी शायद होम्योपैथी भी वहाँ स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं। होम्योपैथी का तो फुल फ्लेज कॉलेज है डिफेंस कॉलोनी में। मगर उन्होंने वो जो आपकी तनुजा नसारी है डायरेक्टर जो है, बहुत अच्छी लेडी है। शी हैज टेकन लॉट ऑफ पेन टू एस्टैब्लिश ए फुल फ्लेज स्पोर्ट्स साइंस मेडिसिन। मगर मैं वहाँ छोड़ के आ गया, अब क्या हुआ अब क्या नहीं हुआ पता नहीं। बट आई यूज्ड टू कॉन्स्टेंटली फॉलो अप विद देम स्पोर्ट्स साइंस का। मगर हमारा अपना स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री इन राइटिंग लिख जाए कि वी कैन नॉट टेक रिस्क ऑफ आयुर्वेदा मेडिसिन बिकॉज इट मे कम अंडर द वाडा वर्ल्ड एंटी डोपिंग है ना, में टेस्ट में फेल हो सकता है। तो मैंने उन्हें कहा कि चाइना एंड जापान हैज टेकन एग्जेम्पशन फॉर देयर जिनसिंग के लिए वर्ल्ड एंटी डोपिंग एजेंसी से
मैं वहां जाता हूँ ना, दे कंसिडर मी लाइक ए वॉरियर। वो बोलता है ये हमारे से फाइट करने आया है, मैं उनसे लड़ने नहीं जाता हूँ।
मैंने स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में लिखा कि भाई चाइना एंड जापान कैन टेक एग्जेम्पशन फॉर यूज ऑफ जिनसिंग, व्हाई कांट यू टेक अश्वगंधा एंड मुलेटी एंड अदर थिंग्स, यू कैन आल्सो राइट टू। नहीं तो हमारे लोग ना रिस्क लेना नहीं चाहते, सोचते हैं कि कोई अगर डोप में फंस गया तो तुरंत बोल देगा मुझे च्यवनप्राश खिलाया था इसलिए मैं डोप में फंस गया। तो इसलिए क्या है ना, कोई रिस्क लेना नहीं चाहते हैं और सभी डोप ले रहे हैं, बड़े बड़े इन्होंने डोप ले रहे हैं और चल रहे हैं। मगर हमारा आयुर्वेदा का कुछ नहीं, हमारा आर्चर्स को पंचकर्मा करवाना है और उनको मेडिटेशन कराना है और उनका परफॉर्मेंस बढ़ेगा। उसमें कौन सा डोप आ जाएगा बताइए? पंचकर्मा में कौन सा पेट के अंदर जाता है? कुछ तो जाता नहीं है पंचकर्मा में, है ना। मालिश कराएगा।
मैं क्या बताऊं आपको, डॉक्टर दीपक चोपड़ा की मम्मी व्हील चेयर पे थी, उनको मैंने खड़ा कर दिया। मैं ये क्लेम कर
और आई वाज सो फ्रस्ट्रेटेड लास्ट ईयर, मैंने रिजाइन करके मैं सिडनी आ गया। मैं हम बोला ये सुधरने वाले नहीं है। मेरे मल्होत्रा साहब बेचारे कम से कम इतनी मोटी पोथी बना दिया स्पोर्ट्स साइंस के ऊपर में, आयुर्वेदा एंड स्पोर्ट्स साइंस। मेरे कंप्यूटर में भी बहुत सारे लेटर्स है, मैं चाहे तो मैं दिखा आपको भेज दूंगा एक तो आयुर्वेदा फॉर स्पोर्ट्स, उस पर एक कॉन्सेप्ट पेपर तनुजा नसारी ने बनाई थी। मैं आप दोनों को भेजता हूँ, आप लोग देखिएगा। अभी मेरी इसी इसमें है, मैं भेजता हूँ। मगर क्या करें, वहाँ कोई सपोर्ट ही नहीं है। मैं सपोर्ट ही नहीं है, वहाँ पर कोई सपोर्ट करने वाला नहीं है।
मुझे सर ओपन ऑफर्स हैं अमेरिका से भी, साउथ अमेरिका से भी। कोलंबिया का जो साइकिलिस्ट है, फेमस साइकिलिस्ट जो मेरी केयर में रहा है, आपको एग्जाम्पल की अपनी फोटोज उसके हाथ आपका भेज दूंगा, शेयर कर दूंगा, उससे आप समझ जाएंगे। पब्लिकली मैं कहता नहीं, क्योंकि वो बोलेगा यार मेरा नाम तुम ऐसे क्यों यूज कर रहे हो।
नहीं
आई हैव वर्कड ऑन दोस पीपल एंड
मुझे पता है। और बहुत लोग, मुझे भी अपने पर्सनली भी मैं बहुत लोगों को जानता हूँ। आपने तो खुद ही बताया था, सुशील कुमार भी आपके ट्रीटमेंट में था, आपके गाइडेंस में था।
मैंने बोला नहीं, पब्लिकली नहीं बोलता
नहीं ठीक है। मगर क्या है, हमारे स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये सब माइग्रेटरी बर्ड्स आते हैं। जो आईएएस ऑफिसर्स को मैं माइग्रेटरी बर्ड्स बोलता हूँ। ये फेयर वेदर बर्ड्स है। जब बच्चों को पढ़ाई करना है, दिल्ली में कुछ हायर एजुकेशन के लिए लाना है, तो दे मैनेज देयर ट्रांसफर इन देयर एंड सेफेस्ट अनडिस्टर्ब डिपार्टमेंट इज स्पोर्ट्स। कि वो कॉमनवेल्थ में जाएंगे, एशियन गेम्स में जाएंगे, ओलंपिक अटेंड करेंगे, वर्ल्ड टूर करेंगे। और जब जैसी परीक्षा बच्चों की पढ़ाई खत्म हुई, तब ये अच्छा प्राइम डिपार्टमेंट में जाने की कोशिश करेंगे, केमिकल में, फर्टिलाइजर में, स्टील एंड माइंस में, कोल्स में, ताकि रिटायरमेंट के बाद में कोई एमएनसी में उसको चेयरमैन की पद मिल जाए, कोई सीईओ बन जाए। तो अभी डॉक्टर कमल टावरी जी कंटिन्यूअसली चिट्ठी लिख रहे हैं आईएएस को। मैंने 2016 का, जस्ट 2 मिनट आपका लेता हूँ, 2016 में जब रियो ओलंपिक्स में इंडिया की हालत बहुत बुरी हुई थी, मुझे आर्चरी का चीफ मिशन बना के भेज रहा था, मैंने मना कर दिया। मेरे जो बॉस थे वो इंजेटी श्रीनिवास, जो कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर्स के सेक्रेटरी होकर रिटायर किया और अभी वो फाइनेंस के चेयरमैन है गांधीनगर में, मुझसे बात करना बंद किया। अभी तक मेरे मैसेज का भी जवाब नहीं देते। डैम इट, मैंने कहा सर मेरी प्रोटोकॉल को नहीं माने हैं, इंडिया खाली हाथ आएगा। मैं जब भी गया हूँ, दोहा गया हूँ, कॉमनवेल्थ में गया हूँ, तो मेरे आर्चर से मेडल लेके आया हूँ। इस बार भी आपने बात नहीं माने, 2008 में नहीं माने, 2012 में नहीं माने, 2016 में मेरी बात नहीं माने, इस बार भी खाली हाथ आएगा। नहीं, दीपिका नंबर 1 है, दीपिका वो फलाना है, वी आवर गर्ल्स टीम इज नंबर 2 इन द वर्ल्ड। हम लोग नहीं जीतेगा, नहीं आया। उसके बाद में मैंने 6 पेज का लेटर मोदी जी को लिखा, व्हाट एल्स इंडियन स्पोर्ट्स। ये जो फेयर वेदर माइग्रेटरी बर्ड्स आते हैं, इनसे दूर रखिए। स्पोर्ट्स एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का अलग कैडर बनाइए। अरे लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोसेस है।
एक आपको गोल्डन बात बताता हूँ, गोल्डन आइडिया। पूरा अमेज़न फॉरेस्ट मैं देख करके आया हूँ सर। इट इज ए गोल्ड माइन ऑफ आयुर्वेदा, जो वहां के लोगों को पता नहीं है, और हम लोग ने उसको इनकैश नहीं किया। मेरे लेक्चर
मैं तो भी मदन तंगवेलू जी को बता रहा हूँ, ये नॉर्थ कैरवार में हमारी अफ्रीकन ट्राइब है, नाइजीरियन ट्राइब सिद्धि, उनके जंगल डीप, इतनी डीप फॉरेस्ट है कि आसमान दिखता नहीं है। अब उसको फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट की नजर पड़ गई है, सब पूरा वहां पर स्मगलिंग स्टार्ट हो गया है। ये हमारे सिद्धि लोगों का लाइफ खराब कर रहा है। मैं अभी डॉक्टर मदन तंगवेलू से रिक्वेस्ट किया कि उनको जरा स्ट्रीमलाइन कीजिए। वहाँ सारे फॉरेस्ट फील्ड के अलावा भी मेडिसिनल प्लांट भरा पड़ा हुआ वहां पर
जी। और वही देखिए
इंडिया में ना, अभी आप देखे होंगे ब्रिजभूमि में मैंने लिखा है, सर मदन तंगवेलू जी देखते नहीं होंगे। ब्रिजभूमि में मैंने कहा कि ये जितने भी हिंदू संगठन है, विश्व हिंदू परिषद और हिंदू महासभा और बजरंग दल, क्या क्या है, 7 लाख गांव है। 10 आदमी अगर समर्थ आदमी मिलके एक गांव को अडॉप्ट कर ले, एक गांव को, तो आप 70 लाख आदमी चाहिए हिंदू लोगों को, 70 लाख हिंदू चाहिए 7 लाख गांव को समर्थ बनाने में। आपका इतना नहीं ऑर्गेनाइज करते। कल वो अपना निर्मल रतन जी ने गाजियाबाद के एक प्रोग्राम का पोस्टर डाल दिए थे ग्रुप में। मैंने उन्हें कहा कि समस्त राष्ट्र को वैदिक बनाने के बजाय एक गांव को बना के दिखाइए ना। अभी हम लोग थिरावली में जो योगा कामधेनु योग विज्ञान केंद्र खोल रहे हैं, वैसा हर गांव में खोलिए। मैंने उसको वल्लभ भाई कथेरिया को भी बोला, मैंने उनको भी व्हाट्सएप मैसेज दिया, उन्होंने कोई जवाब नहीं दिया। हम बोला आप लोग इधर उधर हाथ पैर मारने का क्या दरकार है भाई। 7 लाख गांव, 70 लाख आदमी जुटा के दिखाइए आप। और अभी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया उसको ये दे रही है, अनुदान दे रही है
और पैसा दे रही है सर। अभी मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ। अभी परामर्शदाता कमेटी थी राम जन्मभूमि पर, मार्गदर्शक मंडल। हेलो,
हाँ जी,
अभी एक मीटिंग थी, तो माय फादर वाज आल्सो इनवाइटेड बिकॉज राम जन्मभूमि के एडवोकेट थे। आई वेंट विद हिम एज अ ड्राइवर। मैं भी बैक सीट पे बैठा था संतों की मीटिंग में, और वहां चर्चा यह हो रही थी कि राम जन्मभूमि पर और अराउंड के पेरिफेरी में हमके क्या क्या एक्टिविटीज करनी है। मैंने सर उनको एक गोल्डन आइडिया दिया। मैंने कहा भारतीय चिकित्सा पद्धति जो है वो हिंदू चिकित्सा पद्धति है। बोले हाँ जी। मैंने कहा अगर मैं इसको हिंदू चिकित्सा पद्धति कह रहा हूँ तो गलत तो नहीं कह रहा, आपके ही प्लेटफॉर्म से आपकी बात कर रहा हूँ। तो बोले हाँ। तो मैंने कहा आप उस वैदिक संस्कृति के सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिसिन का चैरिटी हॉस्पिटल वहां क्यों नहीं बनाते, है ना। एंड दिस विल बी कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव मॉडल, वहां बनाएं और उसको डुप्लीकेट करें। जितने इतने बड़े बड़े संत लोग बैठे हैं, दे कैन पुट इनकॉर्पोरेट आयुर्वेदिक ओपीडी इन देयर आश्रम्स इन इंडिया, और हर मंदिर में आयुर्वेद की ओपीडी खुलवाने की योजना बनाई है विश्व हिंदू परिषद के माध्यम से, अगर सच्चे हिंदू राष्ट्रवादी हैं। बिकॉज हिंदुत्व का आहार विहार विचार और संस्कार आयुर्वेद पढ़ाता है। तो अब अपने आप बता लेंगे विश्व को हिंदूमय। दिस इज हाउ वी शुड गो। सर उसके बाहर कुछ नहीं होता।
क्या बोले, आहार
विहार विचार, हाँ जी, थर्ड इज विचार,
हाँ,
एंड संस्कार।
हाँ, ऐसा है कि मैं विश्व हिंदू परिषद का आरकेपुरम के ऑफिस में गया
जी।
65% ऑफ द इंडिया पॉपुलेशन इज बिलो 35 इयर्स, एंड अब 1920 में आ गया है बिलो 25 इयर्स, द यंगेस्ट कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड। नीति आयोग के उसमें एक भी शब्द नहीं है यूथ अफेयर्स में, स्पोर्ट्स में योग के बारे में। न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में कोई स्पोर्ट्स योगा या फिजिकल एजुकेशन के बारे में नहीं है। तो मैं आरकेपुरम के विश्व हिंदू परिषद के, हमारे साउथ के ईस्ट गोदावरी की है वहाँ के ऑफिस सेक्रेटरी, उनके पास गया। बोला कि सर आप विश्व हिंदू परिषद के तरफ से जितने भी बड़े बड़े मंदिर छोटे मंदिर सबको है, उनको फिजिकल एजुकेशन के ऊपर में, जैसा ये आरएसएस वाले जो लाठी लेके चलते हैं, आज भी लाठी लेके चलते हैं, वहां सब कोई स्टेन गन एंड रॉकेट लॉन्चर लेके बैठे हुए हैं छत पे। तो और वो डॉक्टर नारंग को जो 4 रोहिंग्या कूट रहे थे, तो इन्होंने बालकोनी से उसका वीडियो बना रहे थे, कोई लाठी लेके गया नहीं था उसको बचाने के लिए। मैं हर बार सोशल मीडिया में लिखता हूँ कि आप जो सुबह 5 बजे जो समय बर्बाद करते हैं उसका फायदा क्या हुआ। डॉक्टर नारंग को दिन के 11 बजे सब 4 आदमी मिलकर पीट रहा था, आप कुछ नहीं कर पाए। तो मैंने उनको एक दिया विश्व हिंदू परिषद को कि आप यूथ को मोबिलाइज कीजिए। आपको ये टुकड़े गएंगे हैदराबाद यूनिवर्सिटी या जादवपुर यूनिवर्सिटी की ये नहीं लेगा। और उसको सबसे अच्छा है कि आपकी मिनिस्ट्री है। आई वॉज कंसल्टेंट टू स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर। मैंने उस वक्त में 35 लाख वॉलंटियर्स अंदर एनएसएस 750 यूनिवर्सिटी में आपका एनएसएस यूनिट है जिसमें 35 कैडर ऑफिशियली है। आप उनको मोबिलाइज कीजिए। ड्यूरिंग कांग्रेस के समय में एनवाईके को राजीव गांधी ने उसको कांग्रेस सेवा दल में कन्वर्ट कर दिया था। जहां भी मीटिंग होता है तो एनवाईके को बोलता था जाइए भीड़ जमा कीजिए, 10,000 भीड़ लाना तेरा जिम्मा है। तो एक एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट का सब 10,000 ट्रक में भर के लाते थे। हम लोग मजाक में उसको कांग्रेस सेवा दल बोलते थे। हम बोला आप विश्व हिंदू परिषद की तरफ से इनको इधर मोबिलाइज कीजिए। कुछ नहीं किए। बोला नहीं नहीं नहीं, वी आर डूइंग दिस थिंग, वी आर डूइंग दिस थिंग। बात किया, हम बोला आप जमीनी सतह पे कुछ नहीं काम करते हैं। कल भी मैंने, आप लोग शायद पढ़े ना नहीं पढ़े हैं, ऑर्गेनिक खेती कैसी होगी, उसके लास्ट में मैंने यही कहा 7 लाख गांव, 10 समर्थ हिंदू को खड़ा कीजिए एक गांव को गोद लेने के लिए। 70 लाख की आपको नहीं मिलेगा।
प्रैक्टिकल सुझाव है सर, बिल्कुल
70 लाख हिंदू नहीं मिलेगा आपको 7 लाख गांव को गोद लेने के लिए। अब ये आपका गाजियाबाद में हो रहा है, दैविक राष्ट्र बनाने के लिए आह्वान कर रहे हैं। अरे दैविक राष्ट्र क्या बनाओगे, पहले दैविक गांव बना के तो दिखाओ। चलिए, आप लोग दोनों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप लोग दोनों मेरे निवेदन पे आए हैं और आज बहुत ही अच्छा, आप लोग दोनों का बहुत अच्छा रहा, दोनों का एंगल बहुत अच्छा रहा। मदन तंगवेलु जो साइंटिफिक दिया और आप अपने आयुर्वेदा के एंगल देख के सबका फंडा क्लियर कर दिया। और मैंने लास्ट क्वेश्चन करके वो भी क्लियर करा दिया वैक्सीन के बारे में। ब्राजील का प्रेसिडेंट पब्लिकली बोल रहा है कि औरतों को दाढ़ी निकल आएगी। अब यहाँ
ब्राजील को ये नहीं पता, ब्राजील के यहाँ अपने यहाँ इतना बड़ा उनके पास धरोहर है ना मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स का। अगर हम क्या कर सकते हैं, मुझे भारत सरकार रखे ना अपने बोर्ड पर। मैं कहीं भी नहीं हूँ सर, क्योंकि मैं ऐसे हाथ जोड़ के मैं चमचागिरी नहीं करता। काम करते नहीं सर। मैंने बोला था पहले,
ब्राजील की खासियत और है कि सबसे ज्यादा गौशाला वहां पर है।
मैंने कहा सर आइडेंटिफिकेशन मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स मैं चलता हूँ साथ में, डेलीगेशन साथ में भेजिए, बिकॉज आई नो द कंट्री, आई नो द पीपल। और इतना बड़ा अथाह समुद्र है सर, अगर आज हम कैश नहीं करेंगे तो आयुर्वेदा मेड इन ब्राजील बन के उधर बिके तो उसकी वेट करें फिर क्या।
तो अभी आया ना, इटाली से आ रहा है और स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर और ट्रेनिंग मॉड्यूल सब इटाली से बन के आ रही है। मदन तंगवेलु जी सर, आपको इसमें उनकी आयुष वैली ज्वाइन कीजिए। इनका बहुत अच्छी रीच है अफ्रीका में, बाकी सब कंट्रीज में
आदेश करेंगे।
आप आयुष वैली ज्वाइन कीजिए और मॉरिशस को स्टार्ट कीजिए। दैट इज द ओनली हिंदू राष्ट्र बच गया है मॉरिशस।
सर वहां का आप देखिए, वहां का काम बताता हूँ मैंने जो किया। वहां का जो पहला स्टूडेंट है डॉक्टर कोमल था, जो इंडिया में आया, मेरे से पूछा तो मैंने कहा आयुर्वेद का 6 years डिग्री प्रोग्राम ज्वाइन करो। आई वॉज द मोटिवेशनल फोर्स बिहाइंड हिम। प्राइवेट सेक्टर से किसी ने सरकारी तंत्र में उसको डिस्करेज किया, रहे एडमिशन मुश्किल होता है, बहुत फॉर्मेलिटीज हैं। मैं उसके पीछे पड़ के उसको एडमिशन कराया। आज वो वहां पे एडवाइजर है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ मॉरिशस का, गवर्नमेंट का।
तो मदन तंगवेलु जी के जो पीछे में जो एम्ब्लेम दिख रहा है उनका आयुष वैली का एम्ब्लेम है।
शर्मा जी पता
है। और इनकी रीच बहुत अच्छी है, अफ्रीका में भी अच्छी रीच है, बाकी कंट्रीज में भी रीच है। मेरे ख्याल से आपको इनके साथ ज्वाइन करके करना चाहिए। और मेरी जो अप्रोच जो करता हूँ मैं, सूरीनाम, जमाइका, बारबाडोस, ये मॉरिशस, ये जहाँ हिंदू डायस्पोरा ज्यादा है, जहाँ बहुत अच्छी पकड़ है, वहाँ मैं काफी कुछ मैंने संपर्क रहा। और मैंने अपने आर्चरी के माध्यम से नेपाल में, बांग्लादेश में, श्रीलंका में सबको मैंने साउथ एशियन गेम्स आर्चरी फेडरेशन बनाया था। तो उस वक्त मैं मॉरिशस को भी बुलाया था। मॉरिशस के अच्छे कांटेक्ट था। अब तो कांटेक्ट छूट गया मेरा, मैं आर्चरी भी छोड़ दिया 16 के बाद में, तो एकदम ही छोड़ दिया। तो मगर मेरे ख्याल से आपको डॉक्टर मदन तंगवेलु के साथ में ज्वाइन कर लेना चाहिए।
मुझे तो सर आप दोनों ही भारतीय मेरे से बड़े हैं, मुझे आप स्पोक्स पर्सन की तरह खड़ा कर दीजिए आयुर्वेद के लिए, ब्रांड एम्बेसडर और आयुर्वेदा, पर्सनल कुछ नहीं, नो प्रोडक्ट प्रमोशन नथिंग, फॉर मी इट्स ए मिशन। आप खड़ा कीजिए, मैं शुरू हो जाऊंगा जहां जहां
मैंने
कहेंगे।
आपका एफएसी देख लिया है, मेरे